On Friday, the global economy held its breath. A single, three-digit number, 100%, sent a shockwave through markets from New York to Shanghai. This wasn't just another round of trade skirmishes. This was a threat to escalate the US-China trade war to a level not seen since its inception. A threat that, if executed, could fundamentally reshape global supply chains and cost consumers billions. The promise of a new, massive tariff on Chinese imports, coupled with immediate, targeted duties on everything from lumber to kitchen cabinets, has brought the world's two largest economies to the brink of a full-blown economic conflict. Tonight, we break down the anatomy of this new escalation. What exactly is the 100% tariff threat? What is China's calculated, immediate retaliation? And why, after years of on-again, off-again trade tensions, are we seeing the most aggressive moves yet? To understand the panic, we must first look at the policy. The core of the recent escalation is a two-pronged attack from the White House. Just after midnight, new tariffs ranging from 10% to 50% snapped into effect on imported wood products, including lumber, kitchen cabinets, and upholstered furniture. The stated goal, according to the administration, is to strengthen supply chains, bolster industrial resilience, and create high-quality jobs in the U.S., in essence, to make foreign goods significantly more expensive to protect domestic industries. This is a direct response to China's recent move to curb exports of critical minerals, a strategic chokehold on the global tech and defense industries. The White House has given Beijing a deadline: comply or face a blanket 100% tariff on virtually all Chinese imports, set to take effect on November 1st. Think about that. For a moment, a 100% tariff means a Chinese-made product that costs $100 to import would suddenly cost $200. This is not a tax on China. It is a tax on the American importer, who must pay the duty to the U.S. government and who ultimately pays. The American consumer. The market reaction was immediate and brutal. The tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite saw its worst day since April, and the S&P 500 plummeted. Investors, spooked by the prospect of a full-scale trade war, fled volatile assets like tech stocks and cryptocurrencies, rushing instead to the perceived safety of treasury bonds and gold. The message from the White House is clear. This is a high-stakes game of economic chicken, designed to force China's hand on strategic resources. But the cost of losing this game could be a significant global recession. China's response was not a panicked lashing out, but a calculated, tit-for-tat counterpunch delivered with diplomatic ice. The Commerce Ministry in Beijing warned that the U.S. was threatening to intimidate and that willful threats of high tariffs are not the right way to get along with China. They made it clear, if the U.S. proceeds, China will retaliate, and they didn't wait for November 1st. China's immediate retaliation focused on a new front: shipping and logistics. Beijing announced new sanctions on U.S. shipping units and imposed new port fees on U.S. ships docking in Chinese ports. This is a direct, reciprocal move against the U.S., which had also imposed new docking fees on Chinese ships. This focus on shipping is a subtle but potent escalation. Trade wars are fought not just with tariffs, but with the logistics that move goods. By targeting the arteries of global commerce, the shipping lanes and ports, both sides are adding friction and cost to every single transaction. Furthermore, China's actions are often more subtle than a blanket tariff. They can employ regulatory hurdles, slow down customs inspections, or target specific American companies operating within their borders. This creates a climate of uncertainty that is often more damaging to business confidence than a predictable tax. The message from Beijing is equally clear: we will not be intimidated, and every aggressive action will be met with an equal and opposite reaction. The risk now is that this cycle of escalation becomes self-perpetuating, leading to a complete decoupling of the two economies. The political rhetoric frames this as a battle between two governments. But the reality is that the trade war is a tax paid by ordinary people. The immediate tariffs on wood products offer a perfect case study. Home builders and furniture companies have already sounded the alarm. The new duties on lumber and kitchen cabinets are expected to add hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars to the cost of building a new home. One report from a major financial institution estimates that the new wood product tariffs alone could add an extra $1,000 to the average cost of a new home, on top of the $8,000 in tariff costs already baked in from previous rounds. And it's not just big-ticket items. A study on the impact of previous tariffs found that U.S. consumers, not Chinese exporters, bore more than half of the burden. This is the subtle satire of a trade war. The intended target often remains unscathed, while the home audience pays the bill. If the 100% tariff threat becomes reality, the impact would be catastrophic. Imagine the price of virtually every imported electronic, toy, piece of clothing, or household good doubling overnight. This would be a massive inflationary shock, hitting low and middle-income families the hardest. The White House argues that this pain is necessary to force China to play fair and to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S., but critics argue that the short-term economic damage and the long-term disruption to efficient global production far outweigh the potential benefits. This is the core dilemma: is economic pain justifiable? To love foreign policy? And at what point does the pursuit of national industrial resilience become a self-inflicted wound on the national consumer? This trade escalation is not happening in a vacuum. It is deeply intertwined with two other major, ongoing crises: the U.S. government shutdown and the geopolitical struggle for technological dominance. First, the shutdown. The U.S. government is currently in its 14th day of a shutdown. This means federal agencies are operating with minimal staff, and the political focus in Washington is entirely consumed by the budget impasse. The trade war, therefore, is being fought on two fronts, one against China and one against a paralyzed domestic political system. The lack of a fully functioning government makes the trade negotiations more volatile and less predictable. Second, the tech war. The 100% tariff threat is a direct response to China's move on critical minerals. These minerals are essential for everything from electric vehicle batteries to advanced military hardware. China's export curbs are a clear signal that they are willing to weaponize their dominance in the supply of these materials. The U.S. tariff threat is a blunt force counterweapon, an attempt to inflict maximum economic pain to force a reversal of the mineral policy. This is the new face of great power competition. It's no longer just about aircraft carriers and missile systems. It's about who controls the raw materials and the manufacturing capacity for the technologies of the future. The trade war is a proxy battle for the future of the global economy, where control over strategic resources is the ultimate leverage. In the midst of this serious economic conflict, there is a subtle, almost satirical element to the rhetoric. The administration's justification for the tariffs is to ensure fair trade. Yet, the economic reality is that the tariffs themselves are an act of economic distortion, a massive intervention in the free market. There is a light criticism to be made here. The policy is a paradox. It seeks to enforce fairness by being fundamentally unfair to the consumer. It's a bit like trying to put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it, hoping the initial blaze will somehow lead to a better, more controlled burn. Furthermore, the principle of fairness in international judgment, as you, the viewer, might demand, requires consistency. The U.S. is quick to criticize China's state-backed industrial policies as unfair, yet the U.S. government is now using massive, targeted tariffs, a form of state intervention, to achieve its own industrial goals. This is where the subtle satire lies. Both sides are essentially arguing over the right way to practice economic nationalism. The U.S. is using the tariff as a weapon, while China is using resource control. Both are prioritizing national interest over global economic harmony. The most important principle, however, is the one you demanded: neutrality and fairness in judgment. We must judge the U.S. policy and the Chinese response by the same standard: the impact on global stability and the well-being of the people they claim to protect. And by that standard, the current escalation is a failure of diplomacy. It is a sign that the political will to find a cooperative solution has evaporated, replaced by a willingness to inflict mutual economic pain. So where do we go from here? The November 1st deadline for the 100% tariff is the immediate flashpoint. The hope is that the threat itself is the negotiation tool, a piece of leverage designed to be withdrawn at the last minute in exchange for concessions on critical minerals. The market's sharp rebound on Monday suggests that some investors are betting on this outcome, but the risk is real. The new tariffs on lumber and furniture are already in place, and China's retaliatory shipping sanctions are active. The damage is not hypothetical. It is already being felt in the supply chain. The long-term consequence of this aggressive stance is the acceleration of global economic fragmentation. Companies are already looking to move production out of China, not just to the US, but to Vietnam, Mexico, and other nations. This process, known as decoupling or de-risking, is expensive, inefficient, and inflationary. It means the world is moving from a single, optimized global factory to a series of regional, less efficient ones. The trade war, in its latest and most aggressive phase, is forcing the world to choose sides. It is a high-stakes gamble on the future of the global economy, with the American consumer and the stability of the international system as the chips on the table. We will continue to monitor the situation as the November 1st deadline approaches. The world is watching to see if this is a bluff or the beginning of a new, painful chapter in the US-China economic rivalry. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more in-depth analysis.